It's all good.
You don't want a hangry Joe, though.
Well, welcome. Welcome and happy first summer and last day for our students. Okay, to the Marlboro Township Board of Education regular meeting. It is June, I'm getting ahead of myself, June 21st, 2022, 7 p.m. at Marlboro Memorial Middle School. Good evening, Vin. Can you call to order?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Mrs. Amster?
Here.
Mrs. Branch?
Here.
Mr. Petruno?
Here.
Mr. Piernick? Miss Piernick, sorry.
Here, but my mic's not working.
Mrs. Rosado?
Here.
Mrs. Shrem? Mrs. Salachi?
Here.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Here.
And Dr. Heller?
Here. Okay. I will now read the Sunshine Law. Be advised that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 231 PL 1975, Sunshine Law, and that the adequate notice of date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the News Transcript and has been posted and filed with the Marlboro Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. I am not going to read in full, but will bring your attention to statement of videotaping of public portion of Board of Education meeting, public comment statement, no smoking or vaping on school grounds. I'm going to ask Antonio if he can come to the mic, please. He is a graduate of Marlboro Public Schools. He's just graduating 9th grade and he's moving on to 10th grade, but he used to sing, or not sing, he used to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Antonio, it's all yours.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Antonio. Welcome back. You're welcome. So, positive quote. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has yet come. We have only today. Let us begin. Mother Teresa. We are going to go to student recognition. Dr. Hibbs, student recognition, please.
How about now? Got me now? If I could have Sienna Branch come up to the microphone. I'm going to read a little something about the great works that Sienna Branch has done in MTPS, and then we're going to take a picture afterwards. And Sienna has props. Show me your props, Sienna. All right. So, on or about October of 2017, while a student at Marlboro Middle School, Sienna was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, or T1D. While you can manage T1D, it's a challenging, life-changing disease. So right now, Sienna is a rising senior at Marlboro High School, and she has turned that life-changing diagnosis into something positive. She is now sharing her type 1 diabetes life lessons with the Marlboro Township School District in very inspirational ways with our students. This year, she became a JDRF Youth Ambassador. That stands for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and this organization helps fund the exciting innovations in diabetes technology and the search for the cure. She volunteers and advocates on behalf of the organization and has developed an outreach program that she has brought into our very own schools giving back. So reading a book called Rufus Comes Home, and she's now playing the role of Vanna. Good job, Sienna. Sienna tells the story of a little boy who gets diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and the support teddy bear, right? Got the teddy bear? That helps him deal with his feelings. After reading the book, she then talks about her specific type 1 diabetes experiences and answers any questions the students have for her. So she does this in our buildings with our children, which is just such an awesome way to give back. She was actually approached by Dr. Nancy Asher Schultz, our gen ed psychologist at MMS, who just retired. And today was actually her last day. And nurse Lauren Gabler, if she would consider being a resource for any child in the district that gets diagnosed with T1D. And she said absolutely, and she offers her contact information to anyone who needs help. She even recently launched an online Instagram community called Team Diabetes with fellow T1D and Marlboro resident Tom Sioni. This community is over 250 followers and continues to grow. So we want to recognize her for this, and we also want to wish Sierra much luck coming up on Friday the 24th as she's competing in the Miss New Jersey's Outstanding Teen in Atlantic City, hoping to bring her inspiring message about type 1 diabetes to everyone in the state. This is a part of the Miss America organization, which leads the way in providing scholarships to women, and we want to congratulate her. She's already earned about $4,700 in the scholarship to date. We want to recognize her for all of her work.
Great job, Sienna. Now we're going to go to Mr. Balone for student impact.
Thank you, Dr. Heller. This month for Student Impact, as many of you know, Marlboro Township Public Schools is a Google reference district. And part of being a Google reference district, we are required to hold Google events or technology events that benefit other school districts throughout the state of New Jersey. So we did recently host a Google Summit, is what we call them. Mrs. Gross really was the planner of the entire event. Even though it comes out of my office, she basically, she and our teachers who helped, coaches, and in addition this year, students helped contribute to this event. So what you're about to witness right now is the keynote presentation for that event. The event was attended by well over 100 people, and our students actually recorded the keynote address. So here it is right now.
Because we have to learn, and then we could go like to lots of grades, and then we can learn more.
It helps you throughout your life.
Because you need to think, and it makes you learn more. Because if a teacher picks on you when she asks you a question and you didn't learn anything, you might not know the answer. Learning is important because if we learn more, then we'll get smarter, and then when we're in first grade, we can do third grade or fourth grade math.
Learning is important because when you go to college and you're going to use everything that you have done from first grade to college, you're going to use stuff from first grade. Yeah, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You're going to be using it.
Learning is important so that you can know stuff that you'll need later in your life. Learning is important because it warms your heart a lot. And learning helps you grow, and it helps your brain grow. Hi, I'm Angelina. I think learning is super important because all you have to do is just learn something that you might not have learned before, and your heart just warms up. You feel so much better about yourself. Your heart warms up really nicely, and you feel a lot better about yourself that you might not have learned that, and you learn something new that you might have been struggling with.
Really? Oh, sorry, I was just reading. Drumbo, please. Cool down. What is my favorite way of learning? Well, this might surprise a lot of people, but it's reading.
One reason that makes me excited to learn is reading about my favorite things, like gymnastics, dance, basketball, and soccer. I love those things, so I love to read about it, and I'm so interested in them. I love reading because I love reading about dancing and soccer. My favorite author is Robert Munch.
One of my favorite ways to learn is to read.
I like to learn numbers.
My favorite ways to learn is when you get a piece of paper or a notebook or a textbook, I don't know, and you just write equations down or just anything.
I think people could just have
more excitement. Some of my favorite ways to learn are doing flashcards and playing games. And what makes me excited to learn is the fun that's coming out of it. Like once you're finished learning it, you feel proud of yourself, and that's why I'm excited to learn. I like doing math and counting to 100 and counting by tens and math. My teacher picks what partner I get, and I'm very hopeful that I will get my friend. About dogs and cats, because I'm an animal lover.
Bye, everyone. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Anyway, I'm running out of time, so guess what? I'm signing off. Gianna's signing off. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so the superintendent evaluation for the 2021-22 school year will hopefully be completed by July 30th, 2022. No, July, because we spoke. I was just about to say that. As per the county superintendent, so already contacted him. And Dr. Hibbs, the Art Education of New Jersey annual awards, please.
Absolutely. So the Art Educators of New Jersey announced its annual awards recipients from across the state. Nominations were accepted for active members of the association in categories ranging from service to excellence in each teaching division. This year, AENJ recognizes Allison Wallace Farrington, one of our incredible teachers at MMS, our teacher specifically, at her middle level division award. We want to congratulate Allison on an award well deserved. In case you didn't in case you've ever been to MMS, we have lots of artwork that's about that size on the wall. She's responsible for all of those pieces. So she is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Vin, motor vehicle abstracts, please.
Sure, all abstracts were run and all have privileges in good standing.
Okay, Dr. Hibbs, Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, please.
Okay, so several times a year we actually have to report out on our anti-bullying Bill of Rights. So beginning with September of 11-12, our school district has conscientiously implemented the requirements found in the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act by establishing, implementing, and assessing our HIB programs. We have also provided staff training and student training as per our board policy. Since the implementation of the Act, our district has made progress in addressing and moving harassment, intimidation, and bullying and the school climate and culture by observing the week of respect and providing ongoing age-appropriate instruction on preventing HIB. So we continue to meet or exceed indicators in each of the core elements on the school self-assessment for determining grades under the Act. And if we take a look at our scores this year, they were for every school building for a max of 78, there were a score of 77 across the board, exactly where they were last year. So that's our report. The 2020-21 HIB grades, that's what these are, were approved by Department of Education and have been posted to the district website as required. So they're behind.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Hibbs, before we go to public comments, can you take a moment, please, to describe or explain the newly titled position of Director of Technology?
Sure, sure. Want to make sure that the accurate facts were out there regarding what's on the agenda tonight. So happy to do that. So essentially, the creation of this position was due to the elimination of a current administrative, current and past position. We had a position entitled Student Information and Data Services Manager. This was held by Kathy Sally. We can't always talk about specifics with personnel just because they're personnel and some of the conversations are privileged and confidential, but Kathy definitely was an employee in this position. I can say that she had a leave of absence this year for a personnel matter and we needed coverage, and Morgan was incredible and actually put in to cover a stipended position for Kathy's duties. So this person essentially covers everything with our student management system. It's a pretty massive job. So currently, Morgan is the supervisor of instructional technology. We watched all year because she took this stipend on for the majority of the year, and we actually saw Morgan not only navigate it, but navigate it just exceptionally. She is just a fantastic administrator. And sometimes we have to make creative and innovative and fiscally responsible decisions outside of the budget process. Everything doesn't always fit into a nice, neat box at times. So by the time that we learned that through the personnel aspect of this, that it would have been a position that needed to be refilled, it was outside of that budget timeline where we had already started building that budget, months and months and months ago. So when we realized that Kathy wouldn't return, we fully vetted the following plan through the Board of Education with support, overall support. We are going to eliminate the administrative position of Student Information and Data Services Manager. On this agenda, Morgan will move from supervisor to director. What we did was we actually took all of Morgan's current duties and we fused all of Kathy's duties together. So we consolidated 2 positions into one. And then what you'll see next month, if you guys come back in July, you'll see the abolishment of both Morgan's current position and also the Student Information and Data Services Manager position. What's also important to note is that, a few years back, Morgan's position was actually 2 positions, and when Mr. Lindstrom left, we collapsed that position. So technically, we collapsed that position once, Morgan took on duties, and then we're collapsing this position again. So just to make sure that we're transparent in our discussions, this move is based on actual data and evidence that Morgan could successfully do the job. It eliminates a whole administrator. It actually saves the district money, and it also focuses on something that I think is very important, and that's the word retention. Morgan, who's sitting right here, give a wave. Morgan is one of the best administrators we have, one of the best and the brightest, and not someone that we wanted to lose. And not to mention, this makes our district better. And since this was fully vetted through the board, I want to thank you for your support. Sir.
Thank you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to committee reports. Jen, could you please discuss the Safety, Security, and Counseling Committee?
Yep.
Thank you.
So we had our committee meeting on June 15th to discuss the tragic events of Uvalde. And while we can't discuss our security plan, we had many discussions between admin and our committee. And we're making sure that we're taking the proper measures to ensure that our students and our staff are safe. What we can talk about is the voting in our schools. Vin, can you please let the community know where we are in removing voting within our schools while children are present?
Sure. So once this issue was brought up, we contacted the township. I spoke with Mr. Kapp, who in return connected me with Mrs. Brannigan over at the township, the municipal clerk. So we were advised to send an official letter with letterhead to the township, and they will in return forward that to the OAG's office. So I did share the letter with you before it was sent. It was sent out yesterday afternoon, so we're hoping to hear back officially requesting that we just do not have voting or polling in any school districts anymore. If they advise against that opinion and the OAG rules that we do have to have voting in the school districts because they are suitable polling stations, then we would take another course of action and huddle up administratively. But we can safely say we do not anticipate having voting in schools going forward.
Yeah, and the second piece would be an amendment to the district calendar. That's what we would do. We'd have to figure out how to do
So
that.
fingers crossed.
Yeah, and just so everyone's aware, we are allowed to have police officers in our schools. The governor did pass that law where they're supposed to be 100 feet. We still, just so everyone's clear, we still had people within eyesight of any entrance into, but we recognize the fact that we don't want anyone in our schools outside of who should be there at all and every given time. And unfortunately, the tragedy of Uvalde just happened too near to the election, so we took immediate steps directly after to reach out to the township to have it removed. And I think Mr. Kapp was receptive right out of the gate, and that's where we are. So either way, they're not going to take place with children present. It may still exist in schools, but that's not our hope. Our hope is that there's alternate polling locations that we can find in Marlboro.
Thank you. Jen, did you have anything else?
That is it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
absolutely.
Yeah, so we can't talk about all the things that we talk about on the security agenda. I know that you understand that. So there were a host of things that were brought up, and some of which we're still in the middle of researching. There was a long list of things that we discuss, and I can confidently say that we have a lot of security measures anyway. So these discussions are always great discussions. You know, there's some that still have to be fleshed out further, and the intent is to gather more information and then bring everything back to the Board of Education for a discussion.
I mean, security is first and foremost.
Without a doubt.
When I created this, it was piggybacking on the events that happened in Michigan, okay? And unfortunately, there was an event that happened 4 weeks ago. So I'm glad that we, as a committee, discussed, we talked, we were very in-depth. We came back with a lot of questions for the administration. We answered those questions. They're still working on those questions, and we as parents feel very confident that those will be worked out. And yeah, I mean, I understand that we're doing everything that we possibly can.
Right now, we absolutely are. And then, just so everyone's aware, you're shared on the security agenda. Everything on there is confidential. We don't discuss that kind of stuff with anybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jen, thank you. So with that being said, what we are going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to go into our first public comments. Those who wish to speak should state their full name and place of residence. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Please use the timer in front to be mindful of your time. Members of the public should be respectful and avoid back and forth or debate with administration professionals or board members responding to inquiry or comment. Again, no back and forth. Be respectful and civil. School board members and administration will withhold comment until after public comments. Vin, please.
Sure. So first up is Mr. Steve Friedman.
Thanks, everyone. So you mentioned that security is at top of mind, so this is going to be something near and dear. Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Friedman, and my son Sam just wrapped up 3rd grade at DeFino Elementary. I'm here to talk about the security protocol put in place in response to school shootings. I have full confidence in the safety of my child between the hours of 8:25 a.m. and 2:30 p.m., owing in large part to the armed officer on campus. It is very unfortunate that we've gotten to this point, but the sad reality is that armed law enforcement is a de facto standard for school security. Drills and reinforced doors are just not enough. We know this through too many painful lessons. I am here tonight to ask this board and all relevant parties to extend the same level of security to our before and after care. Every single day, dozens of the same DeFino students at the same DeFino school grounds huddle in the DeFino cafeteria or gym or playground before and after school. They are there because their hardworking parents do not have the ability to drop them off at 8:25 in the morning or pick them up at 2:30 in the afternoon. DeFino children are in this program up to 5.5 hours each and every day, from 7 to 8:30 in the morning and 2:30 to 6:30 in the afternoon. This is nearly as long as a 6-hour school day. During this time, they are exposed to the very same security threats that this board and this administration deemed a high enough risk to place armed law enforcement on school grounds. Now, I would also like to address my disappointment in how my ask was handled by Superintendent Hibbs and Principal Straddick. When I had emailed both of them, I was met with a response that ultimately this was not their responsibility, since it is outside of quote-unquote school hours, and that other extracurricular programs also aren't monitored by armed officers. The program is run by a private company, and that it is difficult to find a Class 3 officer. I'm here to challenge all of these assertions. First, before and after care are not like other activities, some of which meet regularly and some ad hoc. There is no single activity with 2 handoffs every single day where students are vulnerable for 5.5 hours, nearly as long as a 6-hour school day itself. To the second assertion that this is a private company, my response is simply as follows. Champions does not have the community reach and access that the school district does. They do not have the budget, and it is not feasible to expect them to pass these costs to client parents. Quite simply, if we leave it to a corporation with no local ties, this proposal will go nowhere. Now, diligence is due, and we must do our homework, and perhaps this needs to be turned into a referendum, but let's lead this effort now so that our children are safe this coming school year. Just a few short years ago, having armed law enforcement at elementary schools was unprecedented, but here we are. We searched our souls, we dug into our wallets, and we pulled no stops to put in place excellent protocol at Defino and across the district. Let us not react to the next tragedy. Let us continue to lead as the flagship district for student safety. Affluent, vibrant, and desirable communities such as Marlboro are built on parents who rely on these programs. Let's keep these children just as safe as all the others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vin?
Sure. Next up is Miss Sienna Branch.
Hello everyone, I'm back. I'm currently a junior at, Sienna Branch from Marlboro. I am currently a junior at Marlboro High School and an alumni of the Marlboro Township School District, and I am as well a local title holder in the Miss America organization. To be more specific, the Miss New Jersey's Outstanding Teen organization. I'm also a JDRF Youth Ambassador. JDRF stands for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation and is the world's largest provider in type 1 diabetes research. I am also a type 1 diabetic. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where the body's immune system destroys the beta cells in the pancreas, making them dependent on external insulin for life. The reason I'm talking to you all today is to advocate for the testing of type 1 diabetes in your children. As of right now, type 1 diabetes is unpreventable and incurable. I know you all must be thinking, then why should I get my child tested? I have 2 reasons for you. One is the majority of time when people are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, they are in DKA. I know this because I was one of them. DKA stands for diabetic ketoacidosis. It is a serious and life-threatening complication of diabetes that can be avoided if caught early. Second, JDRF is currently working on medicine that if you are positive for the markers of type 1 diabetes, you can delay the onset for years, and currently one of them is in FDA review. Getting your child tested is so very important. The risk of developing type 1 diabetes with no family history is 1 in 300. And if someone in your family does have type 1 diabetes, the risk is 15 times greater. That means 1 in 20. I ask that you as parents and adults consider getting tested as well. Contrary to popular belief, type 1 diabetes is no longer just diagnosed in kids 18 or younger. More than 1 in 5 diagnosed with type 1 diabetes are 40 years and older. There are 3 ways to get tested, and you can learn all about it at type1tested.com. The reason I'm talking to all of you about this right now is because it's very important to get an early head start. I wish I knew about this before I was diagnosed, because it would have saved me from months of feeling sick and causing irreversible damage to my body. My goal in speaking to you this evening is to encourage you to consider sharing this important testing opportunity with parents in our community. I will be sending you additional information as a follow-up, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Vin?
Yes, so next up is Mrs. Annette Seward.
Annette Seward, Marlboro. My question tonight is for you, Dr. Heller. I was just curious if you can explain the process of releasing your Board of Ed updates. While I enjoy them, and especially the one about security, that made me feel much more at ease, so I appreciate the communication. I was just wondering if there's a script or a process, or does the board see it before the community sees it? Is there any type of collaboration on something like that? Because I would love to hear from more board members. Thank you.
Thank you. Vin?
Sure, so next up is Mrs. Deborah Vanedum.
Deborah Vanedum, Morganville. I think the only benefit of COVID this year is that I stayed home, did not have to travel, and had the opportunity to spend a lot of time at Asher Homes with their PTO volunteering. I think we should give every PTO across this district a big round of applause. They were able to consolidate from September through January, all those activities that were supposed to take place, they were able to get done in the second half of the year. And I saw it with my own eyes with Asher Homes. So thank you to all the PTO members out there. Thanks.
Thank you. Vin?
That is it for both on my lists.
Okay. Administrators or board members will respond afterward. I'd like to make a motion to close public comments. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jen? Any discussion? I see none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Would anyone from the board or administration like to comment? I'm certainly going to comment first. As far as the collaboration, I thought it was a nice touch to present myself and the board, representing the board as a whole, and putting bullet points that I feel the board would be not against, for. So that is not something that I collaborate with anybody. I do it on my own, and I give the board a heads up that I'm sending it out, and it's done through the district because I don't have access to sending that out, and I send it out, and I think it's a nice thing. I've gotten a lot of nice compliments, and I'm just saying out. So I don't collaborate with anybody. I certainly would be open to having the faces of other board members on there. I have no problem. It's just something that was never done before, that I think in the technology age that we're in is to represent the board and understand who the board president is. Because if you go to any school district and you ask them who your board president is, I will say 1% might know, okay? I represent the board. I was voted in to represent the board, and my job is to make sure that words I say, my board members would most likely support. There's nothing, and so I want to just make that clear. But I thank you for the question. As far as the other questions, certainly any board member who would like to speak up, you're welcome to. Did you want to say something first?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sure.
Dr. Hibbs, and then anybody else could follow.
Hi, Mr. Friedman. How are you? So just some clarity. I can't speak for Dr. Stradek. I don't think my exact words were that was not my responsibility. I can definitely say that I know the conversation we had, you advocated for champions just like you did just now, which is a great ask. I think my point back to you in that conversation was we have a host of things, after school, extracurriculars. Middle schools alone could have 40 and 50 things going at once. My point there was not that champions is more or less important than anything else. We have just a ton of things going on, and there's absolutely no way that we could support them all. And I understood why you're advocating for champions, and I think I even said to you, you're advocating for champions because you have a child in champions, which I totally understand. So I think that was really kind of my point to you. But I definitely don't think I said that's not my responsibility. They are definitely an outside company, but you know, all of our kids are important. I did also say that, you know, for those of you that don't know, at times it is difficult to staff class 3s. I think the township had a difficult time getting the entire pool, so getting a double pool I think would be very difficult. Not to say impossible, but difficult. I definitely did say that. And then I also let you know that I would put it on the agenda for the committee, which I absolutely did. We have research still to do, which we're not done yet. So, and I mentioned that I would call you back, which I definitely will. So, thank you for your comment.
There's no back and forth. Yeah. But what I can say is that it was absolutely 100% addressed in the committee. It is absolutely, as Dr. Hibbs said, the committee members could attest to it, that it is being addressed in some form. And again, we're not here, and we can't go over detailed information about security, but it is being addressed, and we want you to address those things with us so we are aware. Same thing with what happened with the polls. Public made us aware, we addressed it, we reflected on it, and we did something about it, and we're doing something about it. So it's all about reflection, it's all about realization. We rely on parents, community members to help us, guide us. If you wanted to make a comment, you can make a comment after the fact on the second public speaking, so we can still address it. Plus, Dr. Hibbs is more than welcome to speak with you afterwards, and you could have that one sidebar with him. But do you have any further on that?
I just want to thank Mrs. Vanedum. Thank you for the shout out. I really agree, couldn't agree more. You know, just recently, Dr. Straddick and I camped out at Defino, and I want to really give a massive shout out to Nicole, who's the PTA president there. It was just amazing. And then the day after, we had Marl's 50th. So PTAs and PTOs across the district just are so supportive, and they do such great things for our staff and our kids. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, the events I've went in the last week are unbelievable that were run by PTO, PTA. That graduation with the support of those members and support of the staff and the support of the 50th anniversary at Marlboro Elementary, I mean, and so on and so forth, we can't do it without the community. Absolutely 100%. Yeah, so yes, kudos to the PTA, PTO, and our parents who are class parents and everything else. So they need a shout out as well.
I think we actually, I know I was PTO. Jen's PTO, Jeff's PTO, maybe Kathleen. I mean, I know everyone on this board is very involved. The PTOs are amazing. Some of the best memories of my kids in middle school and elementary school have been my association with the PTO personally. So, amazing group. Can I also just address that my daughter spoke about the T1D testing, and it's something I didn't know about. And so through her association being a resource for type 1 diabetics in our district, so many kids are being diagnosed with it, and so many adults are being diagnosed with it. So, you know, unfortunately, I learned a lot more about T1D than I ever wanted to. And the idea of the testing was something that was new to me, and I just think it's an interesting thing that, you know, we should maybe encourage our nurses to talk about.
Certainly.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? Who wants to flip? Fight for it. There you go.
I'm not fighting. I'm not
I
up
know,
for it.
Christina, you're good.
I just had a question in regards to Mr. Friedman's comment. How much would it ideally cost, or maybe we don't know that information, to put Class 3 officers in aftercare like champions? I don't know if we even know that.
Yeah, so, I mean, as of current rates, and Vin, correct me if I'm right, it's...
Yeah, so I think, so to put the officers in, it's a minimum of 4 hours you have to pay them at about $80 an hour. So just doing some quick math, that comes out to about $320 a day, times 180, probably a little over $57,000. And then we have champions going on in 8 schools, so you're looking at close to $500,000 just to fund champions for police officers. Now, I would ever hate to put a price tag on security, but the nature of the beast is we are constricted with what we have in our budget, and $500,000 just for champions alone would be pretty burdensome on our budget, and you could not exclude everything else. So you would have to also guarantee that you can have it at after-school events as well for a minimum of 4 hours.
Yeah. And that's, and on this agenda too, it also, I'm sorry, it also, on this agenda, I think it's $275,000 for the Class 3s, and I think 45, right, Vin? Or 48 for the SROs.
And that's just paying up to, that's not the full
Yeah.
bill. The township actually partners with us, and that's why it is a shared service, because they actually foot a good percentage of that bill.
So, all right, can somebody just explain real quick the difference in the cost per hour and the difference in the capabilities and responsibilities of a Class 3 and an SRO?
Sure. So SROs, we have 2 right now, one for elementary, one for middle. Then what's the overall cost they pay? 40 something, right?
It's on the agenda. I think it's not to exceed about 48 or 45,000, right around
So
there.
they, yeah, so our school resource officers, they essentially are assigned to either the middles or the elementaries, and they work with children, they do lessons. The Class 3s, and they're still present and they carry. The Class 3s are dedicated solely to security. Class 3s are all retired police officers that work at a lesser rate the student or the school resource officers are active, legitimate, you know, on the beat type police officers. So, you know, Township is incredible. I don't know if you saw there was an article that was just put out. I think they just passed the resolution for both us and Marlboro High School for both Class 3s and for the resource officers. So I'm going to give a massive shout out and thank you to Mayor Hornick, who champions that and recognizes how essential it is to provide security and that level of security. They really help us enormously. So there's a massively discounted rate. You know, we're paying in the 40s for 2 full-time police officers, which we all know are hundreds of thousands of dollars, including benefits. So what are, you know, and this is not confidential information, our Class 3s are there for sheer protection, whereas the resource officers are there. They're in classrooms, they're working with kids, they go back and forth, and they also make rounds as well. But Class 3s are dedicated from that position. There's a time frame for how long they can actually be in the position after they're time bound. You know, in a few year span.
Good. You want to go? Or? So I'm just thinking here. All right. So the Class 3s are retired officers. Part of the cost is getting offset by the township. Given the relationship that the district and the township had, don't you think it would be worth it to talk to the township to see if they'd be willing to extend that further?
We've already actually had conversations with the chief of police, about extending. I think there are some.
Not only for champions too, either Dr. Hibbs. I mean, for it could be for all after-school activities. I mean, when children are present, you know.
Well, so Mr. Petruno, I'm wondering if you have any. I agree that.
Yeah, I'm just so like, for instance, I know
we're. You kind of cut me off.
All right, go ahead. Sorry about that.
It's okay. You know, I think that at the end, when we look at what happens at a given day here, and I would actually love for you to come in and see it, so you could actually lay eyes on it, to see that, you know, the baseball fields, the lacrosse fields, the track being used, the chess club, the video game club. There's absolutely no way to in all those physical places to put an armed guard. And, you know, it's easy, very easy to say, just do it, Dr. Hibbs, just do it. You can't just do it. First off, the personnel's not there. Second off, you would never be able to afford it. And if what it came down to, honestly, was the difference between arming or not having, what would end up happening is you wouldn't have. You know, what do you do at away games? Are you sending a police officer to the away game? You know, so at some point, and I'm not devaluing anything. I'm simply saying that every child is valuable, whether they're in the chess club or whether they're in champions or whether they're on the tennis courts, like Memorial walks down to play on the baseball fields. There's just, you know, there's no way to garner an extra 50 police officers. It's just not, it's not possible.
I can appreciate that, but I mean, at the same point, we got to keep in mind, like during the day, you know, you've got kids all over the campus, and there's, you know, why are you shaking your head?
Because we don't.
You don't have kids all over the campus during the day?
When we put kids outside, our Class 3 goes outside with them. That is part of that protocol. Absolutely. One in there. So when we go outside, there's one there, not 17 different places. So we don't have classes over here that are not supervised and then classes here that are supervised. There's a rigorous process for checking in.
So there's numerous officers? Are you saying there's? I'm not.
We just have to be mindful of how much we disclose publicly. So this is certainly an appropriate topic for closed session. So I would advise the board keep the discussion high level. We don't want to tell the public how much we're doing or we're not doing. So
understood.
Just let's be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Can I just say real quick, I just want to let you know, so like at the school that I work at, if we want to take our students outside, we have to get permission first so we can make sure that there's security there for us. That way they're not like someone's over here on this side of the school and someone's over here on this side of the school and the security officer's like, oh my God, I don't know where to go. You know what I mean? So we have to get permission. There's a lot of ins and outs that have to happen.
So, yeah, thank you.
So Mr. Friedman mentioned in the conversation about, is there a referendum or something? Because we're talking big ideas, big money. It's important. I don't know what the referendum, I mean, I wasn't on the board when we did our last referendum, but it's an interesting idea. And I'm just wondering if that's something that could be discussed, right? I mean, if security is important, there's only so much we can do with the money that we have. And is there a way then to maybe go to the community and say, you know, this is, maybe we need some extra money. And if they find that that's something that's valuable, then hopefully they would vote yes and we would get extra money for security. I don't know if that's something that we could look to, because obviously there's only so much money. every budget we have to go through this of how to spend the money, and of course there's always a lot of need, but security is really important. Obviously, you know, we have situations like that, and so let's get the community involved. If that's something that a referendum could address, that's an interesting concept. I think we should look to that.
Alda?
Yeah, so I agree. That's a good option, Trish.
Thank you.
Thank you. But also, just for the, for just thinking outside the box on how maybe this could be accomplished, I know, so you said the Class 3s are retired officers. I don't know the full details, but I know, like, we were ahead of the game here having police officers in the school. Like, we've had it for years, which is phenomenal. Like I said, I think I reached out to you and stated that I love the security procedures that we have in place, because it makes me comfortable knowing with my kids in the building that they are secure. That being said, I can understand the worries and concerns of parents that have kids coming in earlier and staying later, and I do think it's something that we need to address. I mean, you know, we're talking about costs and stuff, but, you know, this is the kind of thing that we need to, that really needs to sit down and be hashed out, because you can't put a cost on this. And not only that, you know, if it's something that we have to think outside the box on, then maybe, you know, I don't know how Middletown did it, but I read an article about Middletown. Now, I know that, you know, we already implemented officers. They were just implementing officers, but they were paying, it said, the article said that they were paying retired officers who retired within the last 3 years. They would ask them if they, you know, I guess wanted to do it, and they were paying them roughly $35 an hour. I mean, that's not an outrageous number. That's something that's feasible that, you know, if we could get, you know, I don't know if it's something we could look into maybe doing for before and after hours at school, but, you know, it's...
That's what they have, Mr. Paterno. So they have Class 3s, right? That's exactly what we have. So what would happen is that all hiring for Class 3s, and, you know, Mr. Slattery, feel free to weigh in here in case I'm going astray, but all hirings for Class 3s go through the township, correct? And yeah, so what you're describing, Mr. Paterno, that's exactly what we have. So what Middletown has is exactly what we have.
Yeah, because Middletown and Howell just added on Class 3s. When we were there 3 years ago, because I was on the board at the time, and we pushed for that. So the thing with the Class 3s and
I'm talking about
I think the question is that could they handle more?
Right.
I'll reach out to Chief and see if they're able to handle more, and I think that's an in-out question. If they're not able to in-out more and the board wants to do something different, then we have to figure out what that could look like.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the reason that I brought that up was just because I saw the cost and I'm like, wow, you know, $35 an hour, that's a lot of peace of mind for $35 an hour, you know. And it just jumped out at me. I don't know, you know, you're saying it's something that we're already doing, but I think we're paying a lot more than $35 an hour.
But it's not one person at 35 an hour. I think.
What's the hourly rate then?
We pay like 32 up to 275, so they may not be making. They may be making more than that, but we're just putting up to 275, and then the township would cover the rest.
And I don't know the ins and the outs of Middletown's agreement, but
right, no,
I'm going to guess it's probably very similar.
Oh, so you're saying that's a subsidized cost that I was probably reading about?
Yeah, it's a shared service, so we make an agreement to pay up to a certain amount of what we can afford, and then they would foot the rest of the cost.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that I would personally, I'd like to see you know, the district reach out to the mayor and the police department to see if we can make this happen, because it needs to. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Jess?
So, talking about champions, this is not about security, but if we do,
Do you have your speaker on?
if we do a referendum, you know, and if we talk about additional costs, we also have to think about the children with IEPs who have been kicked out of champions because they're not able to meet all of their needs. Those parents with children who have behavioral difficulties or have IEPs have had to pay additional, like $15 an hour to have an aide with them. So if we do a referendum to protect, you know, our children with safety, then we have to, you know, think about all our children, especially our children with disabilities, and, you know, and then talk about that too. I think it would be unfair to leave those children out.
Those parents are already paying more than, and because the reasoning they got was Champions is a private company. If you want your child to attend and they have an IEP or 504 that requires an aide, you have to pay it. And those parents have been paying it out of pocket. I mean, I totally agree, Jessica.
And just don't forget, with a referendum, you're talking about doing a referendum for revolving costs. So once that referendum money is depleted from paying year to year, you're going to have to put that in your operational budget going forward, because that's not something you're going to want to just eliminate once the referendum money dissipates.
Listen,
It's a lot to think about.
I'm sorry.
I said it's just a lot to think about.
Yeah,
but we
I
should be
mean, listen,
thinking
this
about
was not ignored. This was discussed. This is a continued discussion. I think it's healthy that the board members weigh in on this out here. It is absolutely not going to be ignored. I mean, I won't allow it to get ignored. I mean, that's the purpose for the committee. That was the purpose for us to discuss this since the beginning. So I can only say that we're going to go back to the table and we're going to, you know, hash out a lot of questions and a lot of comments and everything else, and see what can come out of that. Fair enough?
I'll reach out to Township.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. So anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on. Dr. Hibbs, communication, please.
No, sir.
No? Okay, Dr. Hibbs, harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB report, May 12th to June 16, 2022.
4 incidents, Mr. President.
4 incidents, okay, thank you. Meeting dates, Tuesday, July 26, 2022, regular meeting. Vin, Secretary Business Report, please.
Yep, this is just the monthly certification for the month of May.
Okay, so we're good for the monthly certification?
Yep.
That's all that? Okay, good. And payroll certification, please?
Yep, this is the payroll certification for the month of May for total payroll amounts in the amount of $5.6 million.
Beautiful, thank you. Trish, can you please read financial and business operation matters, please?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, transfers. 2, list of bills. 3, secretary monthly reconciliation reports for travel. 5, HIB report. 6, approval of contract with Marlboro Township police officers. Number 7, approval for agreement of Marlboro Township for school resource officer. 8, public law 2015, chapter 47. 9, end of year transfers. 10, American Red Cross. 11, security drills. 12, lead testing statement of assurance. 13 and 14, state contract purchases. 15, 16, 17, ESCNJ contract purchases. 18, ED data contract for purchase. 19, Omnia Partners contract purchase. 20, renewal of district insurance policies. 21, dental benefits. 22, approval for facilities, approval of facilities use fee schedule. 23, board self-evaluation. 24, MTOAA settlement agreement. 25, approval of the joint transportation agreement with Colts Neck Township. 26, further amended resolution. 27, acceptance of IDA allocations. 28, approval of the ESEA allocations. 29 through 32 is approval of transportation agreements. 33, approval of settlement agreement. 34, award of bid. 35, approval for the transportation jointure. 36, approval of the 22-23 school year lunch prices. 37, approval of the settlement agreement. 38, award of bid for the paving improvements. 39 is award of bid for Chromebooks. 40 is the Chromebook cases. 41, approval of the addendum to extend the professional service agreements. 42, transfer of current year surplus to maintenance reserve and capital reserve accounts. 43, out of district placements. 44, award of proposals. 45, 46, 47, 48 are approval of agreements. 49, approval of shared services agreement with Marlboro Food Services for Rec. 50 is award of merit pay. 51, home instructions. 52, amended resolution, as well as 53. 54 is the ESCNJ contract purchase. 55 is the ED data contract purchase. 56, Sourcewell contract purchase, as well as 57. 58, approval of shared service agreements for the Alliance. 59, approval of sidebar with MTAA. 60 is the state contract purchases. 61 is approval of agreement. 60 and 62 as well. I so move.
Well done. Do I have a second? Kathleen, second. Any discussion? Kathleen is first.
Sorry, I have a list here.
Go right ahead.
On number 44, it was all of the special education awarded proposals. I see it's per hour for all this. Usually there's a cap when you on the agenda. Are there any caps for any of this?
So we put out an annual special services RFP. In return, we get these RFPs from the providers and we award them. Usually with the RFP process, we are allowed to now circumvent the bid process, so we are allowed to exceed over 44,000. Now, if this vendor was not on the list and they didn't submit anything, so say we were to get a student to come in and they used a specific vendor, we would in return either have to go out to RFP again, or we would only be able to go up to 44,000, which is the bid threshold for a service provider or a vendor.
Okay, and I'm sure I asked this question before about all this outsourcing of services. Is it because I'm assuming we don't have the staff to do it, or because we're inundated with requests, or a combination, or? Yeah.
I just think it's been very hard to find certain services. These are selection of services. Is not normally you do not use every single one throughout the school year. We award them to just basically have a selection of, if you could not find anybody for services, you could opt in and select one of these providers to provide it in case you were in a pinch or if you needed it.
Okay, questions number 56 and 57. Where is this flooring going? 56 and 57 is $275,000 and then $60,000. Is this for flooring? Or is it one of the buildings? Is it in the new building? Is it?
Yeah, so this is flooring concept. So this is not to an exceed amount. This is going in Asher. So we're replacing the Asher cafeteria floor.
Okay. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
You good?
Yeah.
Sure? Okay, that's good. Anybody else? Aldo?
Yeah, so, all right, I had a list also. I think I'm gonna start at the beginning here. All right, number 5, the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report. Just so that I'm clear on this, what are the protocols, what are the protocols and procedures with this regarding what defines an HIB instance, and who makes that decision ultimately? Does that ultimately fall on Dr. Hibbs to decide, or is that how is that determined?
I'm a counselor in my school, so it's the state law. It's from the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. So anytime a parent or a student says that there's bullying occurring, you can launch a HIB. But also there was a new law with an amendment that the principal has final say about it, and so there is an assigned ABS anti-bullying specialist for each school. that has to conduct the investigation within 10 school days. You then have 2 days to write up that report, and it goes to the anti-bullying coordinator as well as the superintendent to review. The superintendent can then overturn that, and then it comes to us as the board to either accept it or overturn it. That's the state law that has to be followed, but Dr. Hibbs,
Yeah.
sorry, I had
No,
to
you're
take
good.
that.
I like it. You jumped in. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jess.
Yeah, she did a great job. The only thing we don't, that portion or that option for principals to essentially cancel the HIB out of the gate, we did not do. We didn't feel that was appropriate. So anything that comes in, we investigate. You know, it's really, I don't have it in front of me, but there's a whole anti-bullying Bill of Rights. There's a whole host of characteristics and traits that it has to fall under for it to be HIB. So there's always, whenever there's any form of a claim of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, there's a full investigation done, just like Mrs. Piernick said, and then at the end we have to see if there's any of the defining characteristics. Sometimes there is, and other times it's just conflict. Either way, you know, if it's found to be HIB, there's always some form of, you know, positive reinforcement slash, you know, attempting to have the child understand what happened and taking, you know, remediation steps. And if it's simply a code of conduct violation, then we deal with it through the code of conduct. So I guess a bare reference is if I punch Randy in the head and, you know, that's code of conduct. But if I'm picking on Randy for a characteristic about him, that could be an HIB violation. So it all would have to be investigated and then fleshed out through that process.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
So this, like Dr. Hibbs is for dumbing it down for me. It's like a checklist, and it has to hit certain markers for it to
You got it.
go through. Okay.
Yeah. If you like me to send them to you, I certainly can. So you could see what that. Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah,
Hibbs, can
that'd be
you
great,
also talk
thanks.
about, like, I think for most people who don't know, like, the scores that are posted on the website?
Yeah.
The 77, the 78, can you talk about, like, what the maximum score is and what?
Yeah, the maximum
I know,
s-
like, we went over our points, but I don't know if people understand, like, that there's
absolutely.
a maximum score.
The maximum score for us, or just in general, was a 78. And what we have to do is, and I don't actually have the overall checklist in front of me, I just have the overall scores, but we have to go through on the rating scales and rank how we are, and that was done through our entire team.
So when you have to do each school has to do and by school, right?
Self-assessment,
A self-assessment
yep.
that you have to submit to the state, and then the state then reviews if that score is accurate, and then you get flagged if you're, like, let's say you're giving yourself high scores,
you
your
don't have the
district
evidence.
would get flagged.
Yeah.
And they would come in, so it has to be pretty accurate when you report it, because
Yeah.
you also have to submit things through NJ Homeroom and do
Mhm.
like programs and trainings that you provide
Yes.
to your staff and to the students.
And we have to provide evidence of that. So these scores were from 2021, and we were fully approved by the Department of Ed.
The final piece of that is if a parent is unhappy with the determination, they can come to the Board of Education for an appeal, and ultimately, if they're not satisfied with the board's decision, they can go to the Commissioner of Education for a further appeal.
Yep.
It's all in board policy, I think 5512 on our website.
And I think we've only had, almost in 10 years, not even 2 of those, I want to say. Maybe
Okay.
only 1.
Perfect, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. Anyone else?
Well, actually, I had a whole list, that was just number 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll get going, just give me 1 sec. All right, number 6, I think we went over this, 6 and 7, you guys are gonna look into with the police department and the mayor. Number 28. All right, so just for my clarification here, this is, all this list of all this Title 1, 2, 3, 4 funding, is that all of the funding, the Title 1 funding we receive per year, like that 143?
Yeah, so that would be our allotment for the 22-23 school year for the whole district.
Okay.
And usually it'll tell you what your target schools are, so the funding may only be able to go to certain schools that have, that population or that academic achievement level that needs assistance with the Title I funding.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to figure out. What is, so for the Title 1, 2, for all 4 of these, how, like, what are we doing? Yeah, what's the criteria for it?
Sure.
And is there any stipulations tied to taking this money? Like, is there anything we need to do?
I mean, Mr.
you know?
Balone can chime in, but Title I is usually your at-risk population, so based off of metrics and scores, they'll deem what schools or what population and what schools in the district meet the at-risk criteria, and they'll allocate certain funding to those schools, and then you'll have to appropriate and allocate it accordingly and develop a plan, and we have to submit a actual grant to the state to be approved also. Title II is more your professional development, geared more towards staff and enrichment and trying to better the district by retaining high-quality staff and ensuring that you know, they're getting every tool necessary, so this is almost like a supplemental piece of that. The Title III is your ESL population. So your English language learners doesn't necessarily just have to be Spanish or Hispanic. You could be any type of English language learner, Russian, Ukrainian, anything that they deem a criteria of ELL. And then Title IV is more of the newer one. That's for your STEM. So you're focusing on STEM, technology enrichment. So your science, technology. I think it's engineering and mathematics. And that's a small piece we get. Not much we can do with that.
Well, no, yeah, okay, that's what I was.
Did I miss anything, Mr. Balone?
I think you covered everything.
Okay.
That's good then.
Thank you for that. And then, what was the last one? Sorry, just 1 second here. Just bear with me if you can. Okay. Actually, yeah, 59 I don't have, I'm good with. Okay, all right, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Christine?
I only have one.
It's all good.
Number 41, extending the contract between the BOE and ESS. So are we still laying out money for misprep coverage in addition to the ESS costs? I saw somewhere in the bills, it was like 70.
The transfers you're referring to?
The transfer. So
79,000.
like what is it?
79.
79 approximately. What is the ratio between like the missed preps as well as how much we're paying out for ESS? I don't know if you have that on hand, or that might be a.
We could definitely get that to you.
Yeah, I can definitely get that information to you. I know they've dipped down tremendously. They were at about $26,000 a pay period. In total, almost 40-something thousand a month, and they're down to where normal levels were, around 2,000, 3,000 a pay period. I can definitely share that with everybody, all that information. The transfers, just a little insight on those. So our long-term leave replacements are still within district. They're not covered by ESS. So when you see account codes, so the third line ending in 100, I mean the fourth line ending in, you know, a 1, like 113, 100, or if you see something with 500. So we have to follow fund-based accounting. There's a chart of accounts. So that is all salaries. And then the 500 is services. So services, that's being covered for ESS because when we were paying the missed teacher preps, we have to take, we couldn't find subs, so we're utilizing the budgeted sub money and moving it towards their salaries to cover their preps. In return, now that we have a sub service and we have subs, we need to reallocate that money back to cover it because we were hemorrhaging so much from the preps.
So for the long-term preps, we're still paying them. They're getting paid from MTPS, not from.
Correct. We wanted to have autonomy over choosing who would be in the classroom as far as a long-term basis.
Okay, but by doing that, we're also retaining the payroll taxes, the workers' comp, all that for them.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's not going through ESS.
No, that's going through ESS for their employees that they're responsible for, whether they're daily subs or their weekly subs.
And then with the contract, are we going to like stipulate that they have to, you know, basically do X to get Y?
In the addendum, there's a 90-day out clause. So all we have to do is provide written correspondence that we do not want to renew with them, and then we can end it after 90 days if we feel that the fill rates are not going where we want them to be.
Yeah, because I know in our last conversation, at our last meeting, we were talking about how their fill rate was nowhere near what they had said it was going to be. So just wanted to make sure that, you know, we keep them honest. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
You don't have to.
Yes, I'll do.
So sorry, what number was ESS? What agenda? Okay. So what we have to vote on for this agenda item here, this is this to extend into next year? Is that?
Yes, this is to extend into next year to June 30th.
Okay.
So we have the 90-day out clause, so you could cancel at any time, you just have to give them 90 days notice.
So is the recommendation from the district is that we continue then?
I think what we discussed in public the last couple meetings is that to get really a full-scale picture is to give them the full year to get a larger sample size of where this is actually trending. And then once we actually determine that, we can, I mean, if we can determine that quickly, then it's a no-brainer. You make a decision accordingly with what the data is showing. But if it is trending in the right direction, I think June 30th would be a good leeway to just see this out. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to fall in love with them and want to renew them again. It just means that we got to try something that's working because what we were doing was not working.
So, okay.
Yeah, we had discussed that, I think, the last, we discussed it in public extensively about we were going to have to give them more time because we just didn't have enough time to really crunch the numbers. And then we all discussed it and we said we would like to do that, give them more time so that we would.
Yeah,
that's what that
so
is.
my concern with this is, like, I've been trying, and I apologize, Vinny, I know I've been bombarding you, like, for information on this. It's just that, like, I was trying to look at comparisons of, like, cost comparisons for what we were paying prior and to evaluate, and to take everything into account, like the missed preps, what we're paying in payroll for substitutes, what we're, now what we're paying ESS. And a lot of the, like, I couldn't get a lot of the figures, and I'm trying to understand how we're making a recommendation to continue just on the hopes that they're gonna do better without knowing what those actual costs are. I'm not okay with that.
But I don't know if that's accurate. We do know the costs, and we also know, and I think we talked all this through the last time, without ESS, we were completely, we had more subs with ESS, and we continue to have more subs with ESS right now. So if we pull this plug right now, and we still had a month left of school, we would have uncovered classrooms everywhere. In the last, like 2 months, Mike, go on.
Yeah, the last time I presented to you was in April, and we had Mr. Petruno, you had asked actually an excellent question. How many new ESS subs, or what percentage of ESS subs, new people were taking our positions? And at that time it was 27%, and we're now at 44%. So had we not been with ESS, there would be 44% of those positions unfilled, or not.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was just from
not with new people.
Listen, if it's working, I'm all for it. I'm a numbers person, so I was trying to compare, because really what got me was the missed prep number. When I saw that number, that's a staggering number, like $26,000 per pay period. Like,
Yeah, I'll share that with everybody. I know there's some other information you asked to be pulled. I started pulling it, just the craziness of June, so we are getting to it, and then I'll share that with everybody as far as, because I know you had asked for specifically how many subs per pay period.
I mean, it was more like
we have to go back and count.
Yeah, I mean, so essentially what I was looking for was the payroll, to see what we were paying in payroll for substitutes versus what now we're paying ESS, who in turn is paying our substitutes. Plus, that's why I had asked who's paying, are we paying for any of the subs, and we're paying for the long term. I'd like to factor that in as well, because that was in the original, that would be in the original number as well, what we were paying for substitutes. That's why, when I couldn't get that information, it just kind of made me, I gotta be honest, I was a little disappointed, because I understand it's trending in the right direction, and I'm glad that we're getting, the fill rate is going up, and, if ESS is working out, that's great, but, without being able to see the numbers, I didn't understand how a recommendation was being made.
Didn't we go over the numbers?
No, I'm talking about the numbers that I sent in an email. I had asked for specific.
Oh, you sent an email?
Yeah, I sent an email asking for specific figures on
okay. I didn't
what we
receive
were
that.
paying for payroll for substitute teachers prior to ESS versus what we're paying ESS now. And then, like, I'm looking, you know, we're paying ESS, what, $78,000 for a month's worth of service. So, I mean, it's a, you know, that's not a small figure. That's, you know, it comes out to be a lot of money every year. And I was trying to do a cost comparison, and when I was told that, you know, I couldn't be provided with the numbers, I thought for sure that those would have been numbers that you guys were comparing on your end already to make the recommendation. To see that that wasn't happening and the numbers weren't compiled when I had asked for them was mind-blowing.
When did you ask for numbers, sir?
I started on Friday. I sent the first email Friday.
Friday night?
Yeah,
Mr. Caravella wasn't in district on Friday.
No, listen, I'm not getting into whether or not I'm not, Vinny's quick. I know he
Point
always.
out, you're saying you're disappointed you didn't receive
I
information.
am,
You asked on Friday.
because we're here on a Tuesday night, we're voting on something to renew a contract for the year, and you're telling me that the recommendation is, yes, we should continue with them, but when I ask for the figures, you guys don't have them. Like, you should be reviewing these figures if you're gonna make a recommendation to proceed with them.
Sir, unless I'm wrong, Vin, in April, didn't we break out for the entire board the cost of missed preps and prove quantifiably that we actually were saving money with ESS?
We did break out the preps, yeah.
I'm really confused on what you're saying, Mr. Paterno. Maybe we can go back to the video and check, because I really think we did that. Coupled with, sir, listen, you can always ask whatever question you want. I think it's unfair to come to Vinny for a heavy lift on Friday night when he's not even in district, he's on a vacation day, and then comes the weekend, and then Tuesday. So it was a heavy lift.
Listen, I agree with you. That was why the first thing, I think the first email I sent when I was on the board was, is it possible to get the green notes more than 2 business days before the meeting? You know, that was, I agree. You know, and to be honest, when I sent the email, like I said, I assumed these figures would have been readily available and that they would have been being reviewed. Like, how do you're not doing a cost comparison on what we were paying versus what we are paying.
But we did that.
Well,
we did that in April, and we proved in April. I'm not looking to argue with you, sir.
Right.
I'm simply stating facts, right? I'm not, Mike, that was part of that presentation, right?
Yeah, I think also, Vinny, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the transfer for that 70-ish thousand was not for ESS. That was for our long-term sub cost.
Which one are you referring to?
I just thought we said Marlboro was paying the long-term subs. Now ESS is paying them?
No, that's not what Mr. Balone just said.
That's not what he said.
Yeah, the 70, ESS does not have our long-term subs.
We didn't pay, I guess my point is we
So
did
why
not
are we
pay ESS
transferring?
But we still have to
$78,000
transfer,
in a
that's where we
month.
pay our long-term subs from, that line, right, Vin?
Well, the $60,000 transfer for this 500 subject is to cover for the remainder of the year for ESS. It wasn't just for one pay period or one month.
Yeah, you know, again, my questions were not very, they needed figures to be answered, but you know, I don't think that they were like painstaking. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was just surprised that the numbers weren't readily available and being reviewed if a recommendation was going to be made at this meeting to proceed with the ESS. And that's where I was disappointed in that, and that's all I wanted to, you know. The question that I was asking was basically, you know, for each pay period that I had listed in my email, how much did MTPS pay? How much did ESS? How much did MTPS pay ESS for substitutes? And how many substitute teachers did that correlate to? I didn't think that was a huge ask. For that number not to be readily available while we're making a recommendation to proceed with them, it just seemed a little, you know, to me it just didn't sit right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
I don't know if I should come up with JS and ask this question because I'm a parent first and foremost. Is there, Mr. Balone, Dr. Hibbs, Vin, is there a hierarchy when we fill the subs? Like, oh, teacher's absent. I'll make it very rarely available. I have a child who has an IEP in district. And the month of May, 3 times a week, he was hoarded into a classroom with multiple classes and 1 teacher. I understand that we're short on subs, but so my question is, are we really short on special ed subs? Because it was, and it wasn't even his like filler classes. I'm talking about the heavy lifters, the ELA and the math classes were absent on a regular basis with no coverage. And I asked him very gently, because anybody who knows my son when you start probing him, he gets like, he thinks I'm gonna yell at him, or he gets in trouble. And I made it very clear, it was a part of our daily dialogue. So are we having a trouble filling special ed positions? Because my son has an IEP, he's in resource room 85% of the day. Is there a problem? And what, if there is a problem, what can we do about it? Because honestly, it's completely unacceptable that he's hoarded into a gymnasium or an auditorium or the mini gym with 3 other classes and 1 teacher. That's a violation of his IEP. It's supposed to be small group setting. So I'm just, are we having problems in the special ed department finding subs, and what can we do?
So I don't have any of those numbers in front of me right now about specifically, so I'm happy to look into that and talk to Dr. Blair. I think that we honestly had trouble with subs across the board like everyone in the world did. That's not excusing anything, but so I don't know specifically about that classroom. I don't know. You know, the one thing I will say, since we're having a public discussion, listen, these are all great questions, and I get that maybe perhaps sometimes you want to ask them in public so people can see you ask these questions, but if you give us a little more time on leeway on things, we could maybe have those answers for you, and then you could still ask your questions. But, you know, to come at now and ask the question, I don't know. I don't know in that moment, and I don't know that any superintendent would be able to spout a fill rate in a specific classroom.
I didn't ask.
So I just, if you maybe give us a little more time on that, I think that we'd be happy to pull. But
Respectfully,
happy to pull.
I didn't ask for fill rate. I just wondered if you knew, as the superintendent or as Mr. Balone, if you had heard through the grapevine from Dr. Blair, from whatever.
I think that we had substantive problems across the board, but specifically, I could have done a deeper dive.
Dr. Hibbs, like when you have your, I'm sorry, is it okay?
No.
There, sorry, thanks. When you have your Monmouth County superintendent meetings, is that a topic that's kind of addressed across the board? How are you doing with subs? This is terrible for us, so it's not, you know.
Substitutes, bus drivers are they're the bane of all of our existences right now.
Okay.
For different reasons. I think over the last 3 years with COVID, I think that has really shrunk in pools. Bus drivers for different reasons, because they now have to pass a very difficult and rigorous test about spark plugs and kingpins and whatever else that is on that test. So I mean, your frustration is heard. You know, I'll be happy to pull them specifically and then report back to the board. You know, our goal with ESS, you know, we started out, the fill rate was not where we wanted. We were paying a lot in missed preps. And let's just stop for a second and look and see what happened. In April, I think, was that the last time we had a conversation? Was April? April, I think we quantifiably proved that we were paying less on this trajectory and that ESS was climbing. Since that time, missed preps have gone down even more, correct, Mr. Balone and Mr. Caravello? Right? Am I correct? Yep. And then ESS fill rates have gone up even further. So our goal, and I walked away from that April conversation really, and I think it was Dr. Heller who made a very strong point that really kind of almost solidified the conversation of, you know, all these other people, how long has ESS been in their districts? And it wasn't a matter of 2 months. So it was, you have to give people the opportunity to grow and to flourish, which is why we were reaching out. That's why we expanded our marketing, which is why ESS was having the visit nights. So that's where we left, and I do think it's the right call to give them more time.
I understand where you're coming from, because it is heartbreaking as a special ed parent. I also know from working in 2 school districts that it's like this catch-22, because like I have filled in for classes I'm not supposed to, because I don't have the certification, but then I've had principals come to me and say, please God.
I know that happens. My sister's a school teacher.
Yes,
so I understand.
and you know, like that's why I do. I feel for all the school staff everywhere, because it's just there's.
It was a hard year across the board.
You can't win. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those situations. Like it's just there's no.
But
you know.
To answer your question more specifically, I think you started by asking, is there a hierarchy?
Yeah, is there?
And that's a great question. And I think when people have the ability of choosing where they go in district positions, but one of the conversations we've already had with ESS is that we don't love that, because you know the reality is I think a lot of people would actually prefer the littler ones.
Correct.
Maybe not all the way little,
That's true.
but maybe in the middle. So, you know, we've already addressed that piece of it with them, just to say, listen, it's not okay
It does make
for us.
sense. It does make sense. If you don't have not in your wheelhouse, I totally get it, but obviously those kids who have needs still need to be taught.
Without a
Just
doubt,
saying.
Mrs. Amster. Yeah, I'm not, this year across the board was the hardest year in my 24 years in education, hands down, in virtually every aspect.
I think everyone's saying that.
It was very hard.
And at least in my school building, and this will be a topic, I guess, for another section, but if you go on Twitter, and I know, like, you know, our esteemed Freehold Regional Superintendent is like bringing up the fact that, just FYI, there's gonna be more assessments next year.
Yeah.
Which is,
Ridiculous.
this is where I get angry. Like, really? You're gonna assess these kids more for these state assessment?
Yeah.
You know, with these state assessments, when the mental health is the way it is, and that we're desperate for subs. So I just feel like the state just, you know, we're trying to stay afloat, and we just got we were just tossed a cinder block to hold.
Yeah.
So.
And in case you don't know, what Mrs. Strafacci is talking about is the state last year did not administer the NJSLA in the springtime. So what they said was, we'll give you a waiver, and we want you to do the Start Strong assessments in the fall. In my opinion, not a very strong data points that were coming from that. And they released their state calendar without any discussion with us at all, and
Right.
Start Strong's on there again, in addition to spring testing.
Right.
Without any conversation, so that's what Mr. Strafacci is talking about, is the cinder blocks that they throw at us. And,
Yeah, if you wanna get me
and
fired
staffing
up,
was one of them
start
too.
talking about
So
that.
I will 100% look into that for you, and you have my word that I will advocate strongly that, you know, we need to have a process in place to take those positions that perhaps some people might not want to take.
So it's definitely a good discussion, but we are still in a motion. I just want to make everybody aware. I don't want to limit anybody, but does anybody have any final questions?
I think that was also discussed in the CPAC scope meeting, was asking, is there a hierarchy with special ed? And I believe Dr. Blair did talk about there is a hierarchy within special ed and coverage of pulling
Without a
in
doubt.
special
Absolutely.
ed as well.
Yes.
So I think maybe once we get that information, maybe if we could share out the information about that, that would be helpful.
Not a problem.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
So roll call, Vinny, please.
Sure. Mr. Petruno?
No to item 41 for ESS. I'm abstaining on item 50 for the merit pay for Dr. Hibbs, being that I wasn't part of that contract, that negotiation last summer. And yes to everything else.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosato?
Yes to everything, I'm abstaining from 50.
Mrs. Salaci?
I'm abstaining to number 4 for travel for me to go to the workshop, and abstaining to number 52 for Marlboro Educational Foundation because I'm a trustee, and yes to everything else.
Thank you. Mrs. Strafasi?
Yes.
Mrs. Amster?
No to 50, yes to everything else.
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
And Dr. Heller?
Yes. Aldo, can you please read Curriculum Matters?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, amended resolution comprehensive equity plan. 2, interscholastic athletic competitions. I so move.
Do I have a second? Christina. Do I have any discussion? Aldo?
What's the comprehensive equity plan?
Mr. Balone, Paul, you want to take that? He's asked what the CEP is. You guys want to take it?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. The Comprehensive Equity Plan, that's the acronym CEP, Essentially, it is a 3-year rotation that we have to ensure that our curriculum is aligned, promoting equity, diversity, making sure that we are not discriminating against any groups. There's a specific rubric that it entails that we sit down at that 3-year mark. When we sit down, we pull a whole group of stakeholders from throughout the district, and we go through the state-approved rubric, and then we score ourselves based on that rubric, and then hopefully we pass, which we always do each year, and then we submit that to the DOE. They gave us a 1-year extension, being that this year we were due to do the full meeting again. They gave us a 1-year extension, and most school districts in New Jersey have taken that extension. So we will be doing the full comprehensive equity plan process next school year, 22-23.
I just have one last follow-up question. How much, is there money that we receive from the state that's tied to this? And if so, how much?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Carabello.
No, we've never received any funding for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Vinnie, roll call, please.
Sure. Mrs. Salaci?
Yes.
Mrs. Trafasi?
Yes.
Mrs. Amster?
Yes.
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
Ms. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosato?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
And Dr. Heller?
Yes. Jess, can you please read policy development and community relations matters, please?
Sure. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1, job description and creation of new position. I so move.
Do I have a second, please? Jill. Any discussion? Yes, Aldo.
So after I had actually thought about this quite a bit because I just have a question in regards to the way that the job description is going to. So I understand that we have, you know, there's the retired person and we have, you know, Morgan, who has been, you know, really stepping up and helping out and is capable, which is, I think is fantastic. But my concern is not the rate now, but the 6 months down the line. Is doing this going to, is creating a new director position going to then open up a door to that director needing, you know, 3 people? For instance, Dr. Blair has how many people reporting directly to her now, like 2 or 3, right?
2.
So is this going to open that same door? Because this was, you know, I got to be honest, like this was pitched. I liked the idea of this because it was a cost savings to the district. It was a consolidation of administration, which I like to see because I personally, the money needs to be spent on the infrastructure, on the, like the boots on the ground, the teachers, the police officers in the schools, like that, you know. So I liked everything I heard. I'm just concerned about if this job description is going to be opening a door. Can we get some kind of guarantee that in 6 months we're not going to be sitting here trying, you know, approving, you know, a secretary and an assistant and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can give you a personal guarantee because what's going to happen is Morgan's supervisor position, who would, if you think about it, you know, you have Dr. Blair, for those who don't know, she's our Director of Special Services, and then you have Ms. Mortar and Ms. McCarty, who are underneath her as supervisors. Morgan's current position as supervisor will be abolished on the next agenda, gone forever, never to be refilled.
Understood.
So there'd be no way for me to come to you without you approving a whole separate position for that person. So if you're worried about, you know, the bait and switch, I guess, so to speak, you know, on the pitch, you don't have to worry about that because what Morgan is doing is Morgan is going from supervisor to director, keeping all of her normal duties, and then Kathy Sally's position is fusing with her.
Right.
And then on the next agenda, you're going to see the abolishment of both Kathy Sally's position and Morgan's current position.
Is there a reason that it can't be done simultaneously, or?
I just said we've never abolished at the same time. Yeah, we did the same thing for Mr. Ballone's position as well. But you have my word, and it's already, I think it's already in the agenda already, right, Paul? It's already, I mean, I actioned this to Paul. It's on the July agenda to abolish both positions. You have my word, it's on there. There's really no other way I could try to come to you and say she needs help. I mean, she has a curriculum secretary.
Well,
two.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. And look, like, again, you know, if she needs help, then she needs help. Right now, I know we're saying it's not anticipated, but I don't mean, personally, I think from what I understand, you did a fantastic job this year, so thank you.
She did.
And, you know, like I said, the here and now, I'm fine with it because it works. I mean, it saves the district money. It removes one administrative position.
Yep.
You know, and
two actually.
Right, and I think I told, you know, I haven't been quiet about, you know, saying that I feel like the administration is top heavy. So this is a great move in my eyes. I'm just concerned about, like I said, the 6 months down the line. I just, you know, if we can get a guarantee that that's not going to happen, then this is a home run.
Mr. Zidimir, I have a question for you as the board attorney. How long, once we abolish a position, how long until a new one can be created? Because my understanding from the new position in special ed was that it was never abolished. There was a new position. So it was Dr. Klein, and then Robert Klein, Linda Atanasio, and then Dr. Blair, it was Jennifer Zona, and then Dr. Blair. And when Linda retired, then somebody else, right? Somebody else came in. But my point is, how long until, and then there was a 10-month position that was added for special ed. So how long after a position is abolished can you create a similar position?
There's actually no requirement in the law or in code. It's really up to the Board of Education with the superintendent's recommendation. So there's nothing you're going to find in the law that speaks to that issue. Again, it's more of like a policy, personnel recommendation type decision.
Yeah. I mean, I think we discussed in executive that we were.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'll write you a note if you want. I'll put it down in writing. I'm not going to ask for anything. I'm not. Honestly, the reason why we did this was a fewfold. You know, sometimes we have personnel issues that happen. We all have jobs. We've all seen this happen. Things come out of nowhere, and we have to scramble. That's what happened here. And in the midst of that scramble, Morgan stepped up massively. Out of the gate, we were like, well, let's see if Morgan can handle the added responsibilities. She not only handled it, she handled it successfully. So in that moment, because she's a rock star, she really is. And in that moment, you know, we then said, all right, well, this is an opportunity. And, you know, there has been discussions, you know, about administrators. So if I don't need an administrator or a position, we abolish. Just for the record, and I not discounting your feelings, we're not administratively heavy. We're not. And, you know, look around. We're one of the few places that actually uses VPs for content supervisors outside of ELA, math, and technology. A lot of places have directors of guidance and directors of social studies and directors of, or supervisors and corresponding. So, but this one made perfect sense because she was doing the position, she got paid the stipend, and in the end, we knew she was the right kind of person. And I mentioned retention. You know, Morgan, quite frankly, is not someone we wanted to lose. She's just a great educational leader. But happy to say publicly, will not be adding anything to the curriculum department, have no plans on asking in any way, shape, or form. They don't need secretaries. They don't need any more supervisors. There'll be zip I'll be asking for at all.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you. So, Vin, roll call, please.
Mrs. Amster?
Yes.
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosato?
Yes.
Mrs. Salaci?
Yes.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Yes.
Ms. Piernick?
Yes.
And Dr. Heller?
Yes. Christina, can you please read personnel matters?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, retirements. 2, resignations. 3, rescinded employment offers. 4, employment certificated staff. 5, employment school psychologist. 6, employment registered nurse. 7, employment kindergarten basic skills instructional assistant. 8, employment school aide. 9, re-employment certificated staff. 10, re-employment non-certificated staff. 11, promotion certificated staff. 12, operational administrators. 13, stipend supervisor and assistant supervisor of buildings and grounds for the 22-23 school year. 14, school aides additional compensation. 15, amended salary. 16, amended start date. 17, reassignment. 18, amended position and salary certificated staff. 19, amended position and salary non-certificated staff. 20, reassignment, amended hours and salary, non-certificated staff. 21, transfer certificated staff. 22, transfer, non-certificated staff. 23, amended curriculum writing, science, diversity, and inclusion, grades K through 8. 24, nurse substitute caller stipend. 25, extracurricular activities advisors. It's a couple pages. 26, teachers, Saturday school discipline program. 27, assistant, Saturday school discipline program. 28, substitute assistant, Saturday school discipline. 29, after-school detention. 30, substitute after-school detention. 31, summer work supervisor of special services. 32, wraparound counseling services summer work. Still going. 33, child study team evaluations and meetings. 34, teacher summer IP meetings. 35, 2022 Summer Support Program Certificated Staff. 36, 2022 Summer Support Program Instructional Assistants. 37, 2022 Summer Support Program Substitute Certificated Staff. 38, Summer Nurse Work, Review of Allergy and Medication Documentation. 39, Summer Nurse Work, Documentation Protocols. 40, 2022 Extended School Year Program Certificated Staff. 41, 2022 Extended School Year Program for Students with Special Needs, Teacher. 42, 2022 Extended School Year Program for Students with Special Needs, Teacher of the Deaf. 43, 2022 Extended School Year Program, Instructional Assistants. 44, 2022 Extended School Year Special Education Program, Substitute Certificated Staff. 45, 2022 Extended School Year Special Education Program, Substitute Instructional Assistants. 46, 2022 Extended School Year Programs, School Monitor. 47, 2022 Extended School Year Special Education Program, Substitute School Monitors. 48, 2022 Summer Work, Bus Drivers. 49, 2022 Summer Work, Bus Attendant. 50, 2022 Summer Work, Substitute Bus Attendants. 51, 2022 Summer Work Secretaries, thanks Randy. 52, 2022 Summer Work Substitute Couriers. 53, Transportation Department. 54, Student Practicum. 55, Substitute Teachers. 56, Substitute Nurses. 57, Substitute Instructional Assistants. 58, Substitute Secretaries. 59, Substitute Confidential Secretaries. 60, substitute school aides. 61, substitute school monitors. 62, substitute bus drivers. 63, substitute bus attendants. 64, substitute couriers. 65, substitute transportation secretaries. 66, paid medical disability leaves. 67, unpaid leaves of absence. 68, amended resolution leave dates. I so move.
Excellent. I'm just looking for the item that says, thank you, Randy. Sorry about that. It's all alphabetical. Do I have a second? Kathleen. Second. Any discussion?
Go. You can go.
No, you go.
On 31, I was here when we hired the two people underneath Dr. Blair. And I remember thinking to myself, that 10-month employee, she's going to need to work longer than 10 months. So is this the max? Is this the max we're going to give her? She's not going over this. This is it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I'm all for it. Okay. And for...
I also want to make sure I'm correct here. Then there's been no other discussions about extending this, right? This was it? This is exactly what you had last year as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And for 32, I love the idea about the all those mental health school counselors. So obviously there's only a small portion of our population that attend summer school. Is that what they're working specifically with those children, or are they prepping for the new school year?
For 32?
32, what exactly is going on?
I think those are children that are benefiting from counseling
Okay,
services in the summer.
Okay, that was my question. I didn't
Yeah.
know if they were prepping for next year, or, okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, totally not prepping. They're working
Okay.
with kids.
Thank you, which is great.
Boots on the ground.
Trish.
Well, so on the agenda tonight, we had 2 sections that had 60-plus things, and I know in the past, we've always read them out, you know, the entire lines or versions of the line. Is there any feeling for anybody to feel like just maybe we could say personnel matters 1 through 15? Or does everyone still feel the need that we should read every bullet point? I'm just asking.
Well, I was one who had, originally what we used to do back in the day is that we used to say items 1 through 55, I so move. And there was discussion about it, and people wanted to know what was on those items, even though they can actually see it or read it. I am not opposed, like, if it's short, then I say you can read it. It depends on what that looks like. So for example, if you did page 35, item 1, I mean retentive, so I have it in front of me. So then it would be page 35, item 1, page 36, items 2 to 4, page 37, item 5, and so on and so forth.
I mean, it still wouldn't just stop us from having a discussion afterwards about it, so
No,
selected
it would
2,
never
4, and
stop the
6.
discussion.
Okay, so, yeah.
Is that, so as a straw poll, what are you suggesting?
Just because I did a mouthful and then Christina did a mouthful and we kind of went, oh my God, and everyone sighed and was like, oh, thank God. So I just thought to myself, I know that we have been doing it that way, but if we don't have to do it that way, or if the board is open to doing it a little bit different, then I just thought I would throw it out there as a suggestion or an idea.
I mean, if
don't know.
anybody wants discussion, but I'm open to a straw poll right now where you would just do what we used to do, and Kathleen is correct, you would have a discussion, so it's more feasible, and not even feasible, it's more efficient to do it what you're suggesting. So why don't we do, moving forward, this would be the straw poll, all in favor. So what it would be is we would read, it would say the item number, and it would say 1 through 55, 1 through 2, and I so move. Is everybody in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. So moving forward for our next board meeting and moving forward, we're going to have it lined up that way. Yes?
Okay. Wait, but everything will still be in the agenda?
Yes.
Everything, nothing will be, that's legal. You can't even touch that. That stays.
Okay.
And it's still up for discussion, as Ms. Amster points out.
Yeah. So we're good? Good?
Yep.
Good?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Trish, for that.
Sure.
So did we do a roll call?
Is there any discussion?
I think we discussed it.
Any other discussion?
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
roll call?
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Is this on what
The
we're...
actual item.
This
All
is
the
the
personnel items.
Personnel.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Petruno. Ms. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Talachi?
Yes.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Yes.
Mrs. Amster?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosado?
Yes.
And Dr. Heller?
Yes. Mr. Balone, do you have any letters to read for our retirements?
I do, Dr. Heller.
Oh, great, thank you.
Hey, Mike, before you you go. No, you're good.
Oh.
I didn't say this. I just want to congratulate Morgan.
Oh.
Let's give Morgan a hand.
Sure. Thank you, Morgan.
Sorry, Dr. Heller.
That's okay. No, I appreciate you doing that. So, anything else?
No, sir.
No, thank you. Mr. Malone,
Yes, retirement comments.
thank you.
The first one is for Lydia Brown. After spending her entire 16-year career at Dugan Elementary School, Lydia Brown has announced her intention to retire at the conclusion of this year, which was today. She served our school in a number of capacities as she was hired in September 2006 as a basic skills instruction math teacher, which included teaching basic skills instruction, G&T, and also teaching 4th and 5th grade math class. Lydia has also spent time educating 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders. Highlight of her career in education is knowing that she made a difference in children's lives, citing that seeing her students, quote unquote, get it, or locate an error and correct it as they truly brought joy to her. Lydia will also miss reading to her students, their engagement with a good story, and the follow-up conversations that would ensue. Her district highlights include serving on a curriculum committee, which helped choose a mathematics program. She also co-chaired the POWER program, which is the Title I program. Also the LEAP program and writing and revising curriculum guides. At Dugan, Lydia will miss the feelings of family, being with new groups of students at the start of each year and being visited by past students. In her retirement, she looks forward to traveling, spending time with her family, especially her grandbabies. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors and a happy, lengthy, and healthy retirement. Next comments are for Maria Calla. Maria Calla has announced her intention to retire from the Marlboro Township Schools after 25 years of service as a cafeteria aide at Asher Holmes Elementary School. Over these past 25 years, Maria has worked to establish wonderful relationships with both students and staff. She's had the opportunity to watch her own children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and more walk through the halls of Asher as students and is now ready to move on to vacations with her husband and play dates with her grandsons. She is known to staff for her approachable, supportive demeanor and has been described as incredibly patient, kind, and empathetic. She's always been willing to do whatever it takes to make lunch and recess both fun and safe for Asher Colts. She's been diligent in her duties and is adored and respected by all members of the Marlboro community. Described as possessing a heart of gold and a radiant smile, Maria will certainly be missed. While her time working in Marlboro has come to an end, her imprint on our school and the friendships she has created are timeless. The Asher community wishes her well in this new chapter of her life and hopes that she knows what an asset she was both to students and staff. Good luck and best wishes, Maria, for retirement filled with good health, quality time with family and friends, and lots of laughter. You are one of a kind, and we will miss you dearly. Retirement comments for May Garcia. May Garcia has announced her intention to retire from Marlboro after 14 years of service as an instructional assistant. She's been a dedicated staff member who has always put the academic and emotional needs of the students she assisted at the forefront of her responsibilities. She's known to her colleagues for having a calm and supportive demeanor. She served with students of the Early Learning Center, Asher, Dugan, and Marlboro Middle School. While her time in Marlboro Township Schools is coming to an end, the impact she has had on both students and colleagues is timeless. May, best wishes for a retirement filled with good health, quality time with family and friends, and lots of laughter. Your Asher family thanks you for your service to the community and hopes this next chapter in your life is all you hope for it to be. Congratulations. Retirement comments for Angela Nikitopoulos. For 14 years, Angela has served as an instructional aide in the Marlboro Township Public Schools. During her time in the district, she began her career at Robertsville before moving to Memorial Middle School and returning to complete her final year at Robertsville. Over her years in the district, she feels honored to have worked with a diverse student population across all grade levels. In her retirement years, she plans to continue her work with children as a volunteer with Rutgers Junior Master Gardener Program. Thank you, Angela, for your service to the district and our children. Retirement comments for Rosalie Vulpes. Mrs. Rose Vulpes is retiring after serving as an instructional assistant in the district for 25 years. She's worked in all of our elementary schools as well as in Marlboro Middle School. She absolutely loved working with children. Seeing the children grow socially and academically from September through June brought her the greatest joy. In her retirement, she looks forward to spending time with her family and traveling often. We thank Mrs. Vulpes for her dedication to children, her kindness and understanding of students with special needs, and her ability to build strong relationships with students and staff. We wish her all the best in her retirement. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you. I wish every one of those individuals, you know, an enjoyable retirement. I'm jealous. But that's 88 years. My math stinks, but I think it's 88 years of total to our district. So kudos to them, and we thank you for all their time with our students. So thank you. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to move on to organizational delegates. Kathleen, anything from Freehold Regional High School?
They moved their meeting to the end of the month, to the 30th.
Okay.
But this Thursday, the region's graduating. Let's pray for sunny weather, because apparently you only get 2 hours notice, and I have a senior, and I want it to happen. So.
Okay, we both have seniors.
My daughter.
And yeah, I know.
So yeah, I'm praying.
When do we get notified?
3 p.m. See, Val told me 3 p.m.
Okay, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
So the next meeting is the 30th, and I'll fill you in then. But I spoke to Michael. There's really no news.
Thank you. Christina, anything from Marlboro Township Alliance?
Nothing to report.
Thank you so much. Jen, anything from the Marlboro County School Board Association? Okay, thank you. Trish, anything from the municipal government?
Yes. Hold on. I sent it. I hope my phone doesn't die. Sorry, I was trying to get to it.
Okay.
Okay. Take the Pledge initiative is continuing. Residents can go online and take the pledge to help fight auto theft. It's a simple form. It's linked on the top of the website. A police officer will deliver a lawn sign to your home, reminding your neighbors to take precautions and telling potential thieves to get out of Marlboro. Dogs and cats must be licensed as required by law, register, and pay before July 1st to avoid penalties and court appearances. You can find more on the town website or call 732-536-0100. The Marlboro Farmers Market opened for the season this month and is open every Sunday through October. More than 20 vendors with local produce and goods are there. Check out the website and social media posts for more information. Marlboro Recreation is preparing for Marlboro Day this September. If you would like to be a sponsor or a vendor, please email recreation@marlboro-nj.gov. More on the website there as well, and you'll be sent via email information. Summer concerts, fireworks, and events are all sent via email and social media, so please visit the website and enter your email in the blue box to ensure that you do not miss out on these great activities.
Thank you. Aldo, anything from the NJSBA?
No, isn't that Jen?
What?
The NJSBA?
Oh, Jen?
County you're at.
Oh, okay, yeah, nothing to report.
So nothing, guys?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, there you go. Beautiful. Anything, anyone, since Susie's not here, is there anything for PTO? Oh, there we go. PTA.
So we talked briefly about the tragedy in Uvalde. We gave a COVID-19 update, talked about how we essentially ended with about 46 current cases, 12 were staff. We saw an uptick towards the end. Talked about DeFino's fun run goal, which led to the camp out where they raised $25,000, which is just amazing, right? We thanked all of our incredible members for their support of the district. Talked a little bit about, the incoming different orders that they could order if you were heading off to MMS or to Memorial. And we also talked about the MEF, and then had the regular reports from CPAG, Scope, go to the order.
Good, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything, Jess, from Scope?
Yes, Scope's planning fun summer activities at ESY and the POR program, and they're looking forward to kicking off next school year with a reorganized group. Scope soccer just finished. Please contact Scope if you have a child who wants to play or even be a buddy volunteer. Thank you to all our middle school and high school buddies that made for a successful spring season. CPAG, the and then I'm going to go into CPAC
Yes, I was just
also.
going to ask you about CPAC.
The co-leaders and special education administration met on Monday, June 20th to discuss concerns and possible solutions as well as plans going forward for the 22-23 school year.
Thank you. And Jen, anything from the Marlboro Educational Foundation?
Yes. Marlboro Educational Foundation just wants to thank everyone for appreciating the staff during our staff appreciation fundraiser and coming out for a very successful and exciting Wizards game. It was great to see everyone's faces in person. So, and to have a great summer, and we'll see you next year.
Awesome. And now we're going to move on to school liaisons. Aldo, anything from Asher Holmes?
Yeah. So they actually had a lot of stuff going on this month, but some of it's already passed, but I'll just give you a recap anyway for June. June 2nd had the 5th grade chorus and the 4th and 5th grade band concert. On June 3rd, they had kindergarten classes visiting the first graders. On June 2nd was the PTA carnival, and the principal, Mrs. Silmy, wanted to make sure I highlighted that Dr. Hibbs was in the dunk tank.
That was cold.
And
thank you, sir. That was super cold. They put ice cubes in there on purpose.
June 13th, there was the Juneteenth assembly. Also on the 13th was the PTA's Friendlies Night Out fundraiser. On the 16th was the 5th grade moving up ceremony and the ice cream emergency truck, which I wasn't at but looked very cool on the PTA web page. June 17th was Asher's Field Day, and June 20th is the grade 5 assembly and barbecue. And that was it. And I just wanted to put in there that, like, I can't believe how much the PTA did this year at Asher. It was truly unbelievable. I mean, there was one event after the other, and like they really knocked it out of the park, man. They were amazing. They were
Awesome.
really.
Thank you for the information.
Yeah, that's great.
Jess, anything from Abbott?
So kudos to Dana and Christy for having field day and the spring fling on the same day. It was a lot of work, but it was incredible. Abbott was really busy with a lot of pre-K and kindergarten graduations, so thanks to Mr. Perno for wearing a suit in the 90-some degree weather and taking pictures with every single student. PTO sponsored the graduation signs to raise money for the school as well as yearbooks, so thank you to everybody for working so hard to make the school year successful for our children.
Fantastic. Jen, anything from Defino?
Defino also just thanks all the parents and the supporters, all the families for supporting them this year, because it was very successful and they as well did so much for their school camp out.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
That's awesome. Jill, anything from Dugan?
A lot was going on at the other schools. Band concert, 5th grade celebration, the moving up ceremony, 5th grade show, which I don't know if the other schools do it. It's almost like they do, like, I mean, Mrs. Pellissier is phenomenal. Like, she does like a musical, essentially. And they had the clap out today for the 5th graders. I don't know if every elementary school does that. Does it where you all, everybody lines up and the 5th graders tour through and they walk out, and a lot of times the parents are outside clapping, and it's a big Dugan tradition. So my last guy had his clap out today. Field day, and today was a fundraiser at Jersey Freeze. And same thing, they thank the parents and the volunteers for making the Dugan PTA so fantastic. And I know we all sound like broken records, but the PTA was absolutely amazing this year.
Yeah, thank you. Anything from, Marlboro Elementary, I can only speak for what happened on Friday. There was a good showing. 50th anniversary for Marlboro Elementary, as I spoke about earlier. And that's, both myself, Dr. Hibbs, Jen, and a few others had
Hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
Sang to the building.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yes. And
Mr. Schatz leading.
It's adorable.
And that was on top of graduation and everything. So it was a great turnout and everything, so it was wonderful. And then, Trish, anything from Marlboro Memorial?
Just, great graduation, and, thank you to the parents and the PTO for all just the great work and a wonderful year.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Kathleen?
Same for middle.
The middle school,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Christina, finally with Robertsville?
Yes, they had a really busy month, like every other school. An art show to display all the student work, where parents and family members got to walk around the school like an art gallery. It was really wonderful. They had a walkathon to raise funds for the school, clothing drive, fundraiser, field day, end of year parties, 5th grade barbecue, moving up ceremonies, a Blue Claws great game, yearbook signing. Stock the fridge, which is really cool. The PTO stocks the teacher's fridge with soda, water, snacks, which is so generous. Encanto movie night. I don't know about anyone else, but we don't talk about Bruno. That's my favorite. PTO had the end of year dinner, and they kicked off their sale of school supply kits, which is very helpful, so parents don't have to do the shopping. It's wonderful. And they want to thank everyone for all their help and support throughout the year. And they look forward to the new board members joining for next year. Have a great summer.
Yes, thank you. We're going to go to old business. Anyone have old business? I see none. Any new business? Kathleen?
I just wanted to thank, I had the privilege, we were all invited to Abbott Building, and I went. June is a crazy month for everybody, and I squeezed some time in, and Mrs. Karadova, and obviously she's a music teacher there. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. The PTA there. First of all, the balloon sculptures they had going on there were like ridiculous. The kids were amazing. The parents were so sweet. Mr. Perno let me get up and say a few words, and I was just like on the verge of tears. I'm like, oh, enjoy this. It goes so fast. And they really were amazing. And that building is it's a happy place. Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Perno, for inviting me.
Thank you.
And
Any
can
other new business? Yes.
Well, I just want to say, it was such an honor to hand out the diplomas at the graduation. Like, I had we all have those tough days at work, and I had a really tough day at work, and it just turned around, like, getting to shake those kids' hands and say, congratulations. I think I was more excited than some of the kids. Some of the kids were like, whatever, lady, just give me my diploma. But I was so excited. So, my husband will tell you, I came home, like, was all I talked about. It was just, like, it was the best. So it's nice, because, sometimes we all love being board members, but it's not all fun and games, but that was definitely the best perk ever of being on the board, was getting to do that. So
I agree.
Yeah, it's always nice to go every year. It's wonderful. And you're right, giving those kids the diploma and the faces,
So fun.
and then seeing the parents
Yeah.
screaming and yelling and
Yeah.
just excited. It's awesome time. Any other new business? No, I see none. So, we're going to move on to second comments. Those who wish to speak should state their full name and place of residence. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Please use the timer in front to be mindful of your time. Members of the public should be respectful and avoid back and forth or debate with administration, professionals, or board members responding to the inquiry or comment. Again, no back and forth. Be respectful and civil. Board members and administration will withhold comments until after public comments. Vin?
Sure, Mr. Friedman?
Thanks, everyone, for a very lively discussion. This is a good time. I'll be back. So I understand that what I'm asking for is it cannot be done by snapping our fingers. What I'm pushing for is for us to collectively put together a proposal, yeah? But I want it to be done without any bias. And what I'm hearing from a number of leaders here is that there are a lot of opinions going into this proposal. I would like there to be an objective look at how much this costs, what all the logistics are involved, and how we can do this, what mechanism we can use to essentially exert the will of the parents here, okay? You can't have it both ways. You can't out one side of your mouth say that it's all about children's safety, and then 30 seconds later allow it to devolve into a discussion about budgets, right? Before we even have those figures in place. Now, in response to the superintendent here, I was very uneasy when you told me on the phone that I'm pushing for this because my child is in Champions, and I'm very uneasy about that comment now. it cuts both ways. Your children are not in this district and they don't attend, right? They're also not in Champions. I can argue that you're not very interested in what I have to say because your children's safety is not at stake here, okay? So please, I think we need to eliminate those kinds of comments. I heard a lot of comments about special education from parents of special ed kids. This is what we're doing. We're advocating on behalf of our kids. This, to me, is a discussion about risk mitigation. And in this case, risk is a function of the exposure. I threw out a figure at you guys, 5.5 hours. That is the amount of exposure that Champions children have between before care and after care. 6 hours is the total amount of time they spend in class. The other activities that you mentioned are not comparable. Do not allow very good to be the enemy of perfect, all right? You're saying that you can't do it for every single activity, therefore you're not gonna do it for those activities that expose our children for nearly the same amount of time as in the classroom. That is the dead wrong approach, all right? And in response to the notion that you need to put a security guard or an officer at every single one of those outposts or every single one of those activities, and so we cannot do that. We're not even gonna put one there. Again, that is the dead wrong approach. Even one armed officer is a significant move in the right direction, all right? Again, I argue that just several years ago, it was completely unprecedented to have any armed personnel at any school, all right? Budgets got in the way, maybe we didn't think things through, maybe it wasn't that important, maybe we needed a couple more tragedies to happen. This is why I'm here. I don't want us to react, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vin?
I have no one else on my list. Does anybody else like to speak?
Okay. So the administrators and/or board will respond afterward. I'd like to make a motion to close public comments. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It doesn't. Jen, Kathleen, whoever you want to pick. There you go. Any discussion?
Happy to put forth an unbiased, objective look, sir.
Wait.
Sorry.
I see none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Would anyone from the board or administration like to make a comment? I see Dr. Hibbs.
Yeah, happy to put forth an unbiased, objective proposal for the board to see and what would be realistic. Happy to reach out to Chief and Township and discuss. Happy to reach out to all the surrounding districts and find out what they do. So happy to do a deep dive for you, sir. You're welcome.
Great. Any other comments?
Just real quick, is this, I mean, given how fresh it is on everyone's mind with what just happened a couple weeks ago in Texas, it just, I feel for Mr. Friedman. I see where he's coming from, and speaking as a parent, I can, like I said, I feel for him, and now speaking as a board member, I feel like we have a duty to the children that are on our campus. And that being said, I think maybe if we could hear from other parents on the issue, maybe scheduling like we were doing with the curriculum, like a town hall type thing. Maybe for the security, that wouldn't be a bad idea either, because if there was more parents speaking on it, then perhaps it would get the attention of municipal government, a little more actively than it is at the moment. So just throwing it out there, maybe that's something that we can do to try and push this along.
I'll just make a comment. I mean, listen, this has been on the forefront, even before Texas. Let's be very honest. I've been talking about this for a very long time, from mental health to security and everything else, because what was happening is people were so hyper-focused on COVID. And I said, there was a tragedy in Michigan. I said, we need a security and a safety committee to discuss these issues. And when parents bring up these concerns, you could be assured that it is being discussed. It's not being ignored. As a parent who has kids in this district, who who has a vested interest, who has been a part of Champions back in the past. I am fully aware of the program and everything else. What I would say is that it will be discussed, I assure you. I mean, that's all I can say. So there will be discussion, and that's all. That's my thoughts. So that's all I can say. Yeah?
Well said.
That's all I got to say. Sure.
Yeah, I think that, we all have kids in district. Whether they're in our district or not, I think as a human being, we all care about the safety of our kids. We all want our kids to be safe. And I think we as a district do a good job. And conversations like this highlight maybe things that we hadn't thought about. It's a passionate subject. The only thing I don't like about this last exchange was the attack on Dr. Hibbs, like your kids aren't here so you don't care. I've worked with Dr. Hibbs. He cares very deeply. So please just, it's passionate and I get it. But I also just let's all come to the table without biases, that we all care and that we all want to do the right thing. We don't know exactly what that is. We're all trying to figure that out. And yes, if we had all the money in the world, then we'd do whatever we could. But we also, part of our job as board members is to be thoughtful about how we are spending our money. So we have to weight options and ideas and suggestions and things that we can and cannot afford, and figure out creative ways to afford things that maybe don't make it to the budget. And that's all part of all of our jobs together. And I think we do a good job with that because we all come from different ideas and different thoughts. But I think working with most of the board members here for an extended period of time, we are very, not just because we have kids in the district, but because we're all good human beings that care. So thank you for bringing some good ideas and concerns, because that's your job as parents, to help us be better parents and better board members. But we all also are all parents ourselves. So just, because maybe you don't know who we are, but we're all living here and we all have kids in district. And so it's important.
Thank you. Jill?
And also to tack on to what you said, and I'm sure all the educators here would feel this way. I work in another district, and I promise you, if anything ever happens, and my family knows this because I've actually had this discussion with my kids, I will throw my body, just like those two teachers did, in front of the kids. So even if I don't have kids in that school district, I care. I have snacks. I have a blanket. I'm sorry, this is just very emotional for me, because I understand when you're saying, oh, we need police, but for me, it's also frustrating, and we're doing stuff for the mental health, but do you know how frustrating it is as a counselor when you send these kids out to Central State, Monmouth Medical, Red Bank, and we're told they're just sent right back to us? So I appreciate your passion, but I also am begging all of you, it's not just here. We need to push back at the hospitals, because my fear is that one of the students that gets sent to the hospital, that'll be the next mass shooting, and then the hospital's gonna have to say, yeah, no, we discharged this kid for a screening. So even though we want these police officers there, and I don't have kids in that district, I lose a hell of a lot of sleep worrying about my kids. And I'm sorry I'm so emotional. I'm tired because I did 2 suicide assessments this morning as a half day. So I know I might go viral, and I'm sorry, and I hope I'm not doing anything unethical, but this is very passionate for me. I know, but I guess
Guys, we can't go back and forth.
You're right. We
can't
go
back and forth.
We cannot go back and forth. I'm happy to talk with you afterwards, absolutely. But I feel for
excuse me.
But
go back
I feel
and
for
forth.
Dr. Hibbs, because just because he doesn't have kids in the school district, he is an educator.
Sir.
Guys.
This is the board member comment section, so we close the public participation. We don't want to have a back and forth, okay? You can certainly
It's been a
talk
long
after the
night,
meeting.
so I apologize, but this has just been heavily on my mind.
Listen, this is a very passionate, on everybody's mind since what happened in Texas, okay? None of whatever anybody says is on deaf's ears, at least not with me. I will tell you that, again, this is not, it's in the infancy stage. If people were aware of, and board members are aware because they got the agenda of what we talked about during our committee meeting, it was heavy what we did. Correct, Christina? Correct, Jen? So it was not ignored in any shape or form. We talked about every aspect that most parents and most individuals would never even think of. We looked through a lens that you would be very proud of to have kids in this district. We were thinking of every angle that you can think of. And unfortunately, we can't discuss that in public. But I can assure you that that has been on the forefront of my mind even before Texas, even before Michigan, before all of this. So I can assure you the people on this board are passionate, and the public is passionate, and I can go for endless hours just talking about it. So everybody is heard out there. We are definitely taking it very seriously. The administration has been amazing with their feedback, with the communication with the police in Marlboro, with the state, everything. They have been top notch with that. I can assure you of that. And that's all I have to say on that. Does anybody else have anything else to say?
Just real quick with our committees, with even just the board, I really like that we all are, we each work in different districts as well, and we can take our districts and say what we like about it, what don't like about it, what do you think we can fix, and bring it to Marlboro. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that that's something special that we have as a board here. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. And sorry if I got too passionate. It's just been a really long time.
No, listen.
And a really long school year.
There's no apologies.
And I'm not done yet.
There's no apologies for anyone. It's a matter of forum to talk and communicate and to discuss. Again, there's very much passion on all ends, and I'm not going to go to nausea with this. And so anybody else have any other comments? Okay. So with that being said, let's move on to executive session resolution. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlboro Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to the expectations prescribed by NJSA 10:4-12 for the purposes of discussing matters of attorney-client privilege, safety and security, and personnel matters. It is anticipated that the length of this executive session will be 30 to 45 minutes, but 30 minutes is hopeful. And the action will, 30 minutes, I'm getting a quote here, and that no action will be taken in public after the executive session. Be it further resolved that the minutes of the executive session will be released when the need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12 no longer applies. I am making a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, somebody very passionate. Jess, any discussion? Okay, I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say no. The ayes have it. Good night. Be safe, be healthy, and enjoy.